Hello Internet, my name is Lave and I watched Midway, the latest film from Roland Emmerich, the guy behind big-scale destruction, end-of-the-world movies such as Independence Day, The Day After Tomorrow and 2012. Now he's having a go at the war epic telling the story of the Battle of Midway, a chain of islands in the Pacific Ocean where American and Japanese naval forces fought for supremacy in the sea and air in what would become a pivotal moment in World War II. So here's the thing about Roland Emmerich, he is really competent at putting together big CGI driven large-scale set pieces, there's no question about that. And when I was a kid, and I'm talking like 14, 15 years old, that's all I wanted from my movie, so I kind of remember enjoying Godzilla when I saw it when I was like 13 years old. Don't hold it against me. But then as I got older and I started to get more interested and invested in movies, I started to see how cliched and stereotypical and one-dimensional that the characters and the stories that populate his films really are. And with this being based on real people and on real events, I was hoping that more care and attention would be given to the characters and the screenplay. But unfortunately, that's not the case. It starts off quite promising. It picks up with Patrick Wilson's intelligence officer discussing war with Japanese officers, and I thought, okay, he's actually taking this seriously. But then the very next scene reminds us that this is an Emmerich movie and he does love his cliches. We pick up with an aeroplane falling out of the sky and it falls behind something in the foreground and you think, oh no, it's going to crash, and then vroom, and it doesn't crash. And I can think of at least 4 other movies that have used that trope. Now there's no doubt in my mind that Emmerich and his writers and his researchers have studied the actual event and the real people involved, and they've approached it with the mindset of we've got to include as many true aspects as we can in this film. But one of the problems for me that this film has is the amount of characters and their individual stories that they're trying to tell, from the cadets on the deck to the pilots in the sky, the senior officers in command on both sides, the intelligence officers gathering intel and the code breakers. There's so many of them and their stories spread so thin, I just didn't get invested in any of them. For example, Aaron Eckhart is in this film as Jimmy Doolittle. Now I know through conversations with my dad who this guy was. He led the Doolittle raids. For those who don't know, I won't elaborate any further, but essentially he pops up on screen and is like, alright lads, this is what we're going to do. If all goes to plan, I'll see you in China. We then see him do his raid, and then apart from maybe one other scene, we don't see him again for the rest of the film, apart from the very end credits where he pops up again alongside the actual picture of Jimmy Doolittle. And it does that with other characters as well, but my point is that there are so many characters and so many good stories to tell within this that I wondered if this could have been better as a TV or streaming service. It would have been a really nice companion piece to something like Band of Brothers or The Pacific. Instead, it feels like an overbloated film with no substance at all. Out of all of the characters in the film, it spends most of the time with Ed Skrein's dive bomber pilot, and it plays out pretty much like Top Gun. He's a maverick, he's cocky and dangerous, so his fellow pilots are reluctant to follow him. Again, no disrespect to the actual person that Ed Skrein is playing. I mean, if he did half of the stuff that we see his character do in this film, then yeah, he's undoubtedly brave and heroic. I just think that his character deserves a better film, and I don't think that Ed Skrein is a very good leading man. I think he's alright as a villain or maybe an anti-hero, but I don't think he has the charm to play a leading man. And the film also seems to think that to make him appear more American, he needs to chew more gum, which reminded me of the joke in Godzilla, which actually makes me think that that wasn't a joke, and Roland Emmerich believes that all Americans chew gum.
Well, thank you very much.
At the end of the day, this is a Roland Emmerich film, so if you're only expecting big CGI spectacle, then it does deliver. From the initial attack at Pearl Harbor to the counterstrike at Marshall Islands and the Battle of Midway itself. And it is impressive, but also kind of weightless, because aside from a couple of low-angle interior shots of the cockpits, it's mostly computer-generated imagery. Now, I'm an advocate of CG, and I hugely respect the amount of work and the attention to detail that went into this, but I firmly believe believe that there should be a balance between CG and live action stuff. The first thing I did when I got home from seeing this was watch Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor attack sequence, and there is some really impressive CG work in that. Interestingly, on par with this film, I don't think in the 18 years, this doesn't look all that different from Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor. But interestingly, Michael Bay did use a lot of live action elements, and I think the Pearl Harbor sequence in that is better than this film. But then, you've also got the manufactured love story in Michael Bay's film. They're both not good films. They both got terrible dialogue, and they're pretty boring apart from all the flashy CG stuff. So that's my thoughts on Midway, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. If anything, this film made me appreciate Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk even more than I already did. I think there are comparisons to be made to both films. I mean, they're both trying to tell epic, pivotal moments in World War II, but the results are very different. I mean, I remember walking out of Dunkirk a complete rack of nerves at the tension, the relentless tension in that film, and this one has no tension whatsoever. But let me know your thoughts on Midway down in the comments if you've seen it, and as always, thanks very much for checking out this review. I really do appreciate it. If you can, give it a like, and don't forget to share the lave.